Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today I want to talk about the star screws and the Torx screws from WE. As you guys know, WE has recently introduced 3 knives and 4, if you count the upcoming Slipstream, with Torx screws. The Blitz, the budget knife with Torx screws, came with stainless Torx screws. The Balaenoptera and the Sea Monster are coming with titanium Torx screws. Now, it's caused some turmoil in the community, and people are, oh, I love the star screws. Oh, awesome, we're getting Torx screws. Okay, well, I want to explain where I land and why. But first, I want to get a look at the quality of these Torx screws that they're putting in the Sea Monster and the Balaenoptera. I happen to have a T8 torque wrench, and I happen to have the Balaenoptera with the stainless Torx screws. Now, these, best I can tell, mainly because I go through knife kits a lot and I know what's available out there, this is a standard off-the-shelf pivot that they've milled to fit the knife. I've seen this design many times, and I absolutely assume that these are off-the-shelf Torx screws. Standard stainless off-the-shelf stuff. Nothing that we made, nothing special. So here's what I want to show you. If I stick this in here, and let me get the Weehaw up here. Okay, watch the Weehaw. You may have seen this already in the other video, but we're going to do it again. I'll try to be a little quicker this time. See how much that Weehaw waggles around? And that really isn't too bad for a Torx screw. There you go. All your body screws got a lot of wiggle in them. Now, this pivot doesn't, but I'm pretty sure that this pivot came from knife kits or whomever makes them for knife kits or Jant Supply or whoever. So it's a specific knife pivot, and most of the time that stuff has got tighter tolerances. But let's look at what we get here. There's our lock bar screw, and I didn't get the Weehaw up there. There we go. It's tight. It's not just one of them, guys. It's a tolerance. It's all of them. And that is what WE is bringing with their Torx screws. They didn't just go and say, well, all right, we're changing everything to Torx screws, which, by the way, they're, as far as I know, they're not changing everything to Torx screws. So don't be concerned and worried about that. Every knife that has star screws currently, you'll still be able to get those knives with star screws, as far as I know. I have yet to see one with Torx screws in it or replacement sets with Torx screws. So what they've done is, many of us asked for Torx screws and they're delivering. They didn't deliver right away because they went back home after Blade Show and they thought about it. They built these Torx screws that have tight tolerances. And you have to understand that whenever we're talking about WE, Riot, and a couple of other companies, many other companies, Hinderer, they not only control the head of that screw, but they control the thread pitch, the tolerance in the threads, everything. It's not just dial it in and go make another screw. They make these things fit the way they should, and that is a beautiful thing for all of us. That's why you can take a Hinderer knife apart, throw all the pieces out on the table, and as long as you've got the same generation Hinderer, you can take another XM18 apart, and you can mix and match the parts, and the majority of the time, everything comes back together right and everything's perfect. It's because of the milling practices, machining practices, we'll call them, and the fasteners that Hinderer puts in his knives. You know, Rick was very boisterous about that several years ago whenever he started producing his own knives. And it's a great thing whenever makers realize this, because screws, as a knife maker myself, screws, connectors, all those things that I can't machine myself can be the biggest headache of the entire build. So whenever you take care of that yourself, bring that in-house and you control it, you're the only one that can be at fault if it's wrong. And WE has done a beautiful job with their Torx screws. Now, what was wrong with the star screws? Well, there really wasn't all that much wrong with the star screw, except, you know, this is a good example right here. You see the light spots there where I've had this knife apart 3 or 4 times? That happens. If you have one that got Loctited too tight, it's very easy to strip those ends of the stars off, no matter how careful you are with them. The one in this knife has been slightly ate up, not nearly as bad. Well, yeah, it's been bent around a little bit because I've had it apart a few times. And that was the major issue with the star screw. It wasn't that it's a bad fastener, because everything that's underneath the head of that star screw is A-OK. And the star screw as a design element is A-OK as well. So what are we going to see out of WE? All right, well, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't have enough insight to give you any super information. But here's what I expect. They own the patent on the star screw, and this is also what I hope that they do. What I would hope that they would do is they work to appease both camps to some extent. Now, not everybody's going to be happy, of course, but we have these two camps. We have one side that, oh, the star screws were cool. We have the other side, oh, the star screws weren't cool. Now, let me explain those two sides. You have the one side that's myself, Shabazz, Kevin, several of the other reviewers, and users that take their knives apart, want to know what's inside them, want to keep them clean, want to do the right thing by their knife, and the star screw provides an issue because you are eventually going to tear that screw up, and you're eventually going to have to call WE and or email WE and order another set of screws. On the other side of the debate is the collector group. And these guys are looking for aesthetics. They want to have the cool knife. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Don't pick back and forth, guys. This is a nice, clean, happy forum, okay? State your opinion, but don't call out the other side, because we're all in the same hobby here. And we need to be respectful, right? So these guys are looking at design element. They want to have the cool knife. They do things like they may never sharpen their knife because they don't need to. They're not really using it. It is to have the cool blade. You know, there are even some guys that I know of that will order a knife. They'll drop ship it to, or have it shipped to somebody like the Apostle P or Fanatic Edge or, you know, whomever, a professional knife sharpener that can give them that mirrory edge so that they have the coolest knife. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And, you know, in fact, you know, it's kind of a cool thing. I like to see some of these guys' knives because they'll have something, whatever, neat that I'm never going to buy. But then there are those of us on the other side that use our knives every day. And I use everything from a $30 Tangram all the way up to $500 and $600 knives. And whatever I've got in my pocket for the day has to achieve the tasks of the day. I don't go easy on a Todd Begg Steelcraft because it was $400 and some. I don't go easy on my Liang Ma Endeavor because it's a $450, I think, knife. And I don't beat extra hard on that Tangram or on that Delica because it was less than $100. They all have to do the task at hand, and I don't give deference or preference or whatever because of the price. And there are a lot of us out there that are like that, but we want to be able to service that knife. And that's where these excellent Torx screws come in. Being able to service that knife. Now, what would I like to see we do as the future rolls on? Well, I would like to see them take what's going to be their general EDC designs and stick with the Torx screws. And whenever they have a high style design, like say this 620, and this is one that comes to mind to me every time I think about getting rid of the Torx screws or getting rid of the star screws and replacing them with Torx screws. If you took these star screws off of this knife, it would lose its battleship or starship appearance. And I don't want that. And that's what I hope that we does going forward. I hope that they take each design and they prototype it or do it in CAD, render it in CAD with the star screws and with the Torx screws. And very sparingly, I want them to release high style knives with the star screws. Now, I don't want every other knife to be a star screw knife. Whenever they have something where the star screws really, really fit the design, I want to see the star screws. You know, you've got like the 620, and then you have the screws that are holding this carbon fiber on the Natita. And I think they work out fine as star screws. Now, however, whenever you flip the Natita around to the backside, I would rather see Torx screws. So, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other type thing there. But that's what I would like to see them do, and that's what I hope they do. They hold the patent on the star screw, and I would like to see that screw in high design knives. Really knives, not just your general EDC, stuff that is more pointed at the collector market. And I hope that's what they do in the future. And I hope that we see some knives designed around the aesthetic of that star screw with some stuff like Damasteel in them and other high-end pieces, you know, high-end materials. Because, well, you know, it would just be cool. And it would let we break in, I don't know if break-in's the right word. It would let we be in both spaces. It would let we be in the space where I'm at, where I'm going to use that knife up to $500, and I'm not going to go easy on it. And I'd still have my Torx screws, so it's easy to take apart. And not just Torx screws, but darn good ones. And also, it would give that guy that wants to have the coolest knife in the room, or something really nice to add to his collection, it would give that guy a wee knife to look at too. You know, and all of them at fairly reasonable prices considering the materials and the workmanship. And guys, that's my opinion and my thoughts on the Torx screw versus star screw in the wee knife lineup. What do I expect to see? Well, I expect to see a lot more Torx screws. And I'm happy about that in so many ways. I just really, really hope that we, whenever they do something that can use the styling of those star screws, that they whip them out and use them. Because most of the time, whenever you get to that high style knife, it's not going to be something that I'm going to want anyhow, but it's going to be something that those collectors and those I've got the coolest knife on the block guys are going to want. And that is a beautiful thing for everyone. And you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I do believe that this is the last one of the Wii videos for at least a couple of days. I've got to get back to flashlight and some Best Tech knives, and we've got to get back out in the shop. Dadgum. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.